Oh man, that like last few seconds is a lot longer. What's up?
What's going on?
Happy May the 5th, Revenge of the Sith, Revenge of the 5th,
Revenge of the.
technically.
I was gonna say, May the fifth be with you. May the sixth be.
It's well, I guess you could. It used to be the May the 6th, and they used to say May the 6th or
May
Revenge
the
of the
sixth.
6th
Revenge of the
because
sixth.
it sounds like Sith. So Revenge of the Sith, Revenge of the 6th.
All right, so we'll just say May the fifth be with you, but also happy Cinco de Mayo and happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you very
You
much.
are
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. So being it's still a Star Wars themed, I guess, week and show. We're going to cover Visions pretty much.
I have a confession.
All right. What's
When I asked you on Wednesday if we were
oh.
talking about Star Wars and what I should watch, if anything, you were like, "Yeah, Vision season 2." And I was like, "Cool, got you." I hadn't seen Vision season 1, so I didn't know what I was meant to watch. So I started yesterday at the beginning of the day watching Star Wars Vision season 1. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I would say it's like Love, Death, and Robots Star Wars.
Yes. Yes.
Very, very cool, very engaging. But like midway through the day, I was like, yo, because I had also been working. I'm like, I'm not gonna finish season 1. So I just watched all of season 2. And then you hit me with the whammy. And then I was like, oh well, I got time. And then I finished season 1. So I have watched all of Star Wars Visions within the last 48 hours.
Well, fortunately, none of these stories are continuations. They all stand on their own. But
It
good.
made me nervous. I was like, dang, what if I watch something in season 2 and there was one episode like it in season
I
1 and I missed it?
I could have swore I thought we covered, or maybe I just covered
If
Vision
you did,
season
you
one. I
probably
probably did on. It was probably on Star Wars Sunday that I did the Vision season one. If I remember correctly. But yeah, like no, it is definitely Love, Death, and Robots for Star Wars. It's a very cool concept because none of these stories are technically canon, but they don't have to. They still pull for a lot from the canon lore, but they give a lot of the studios the creative freedom to make their own kind of stories within the Star Wars universe. So it's really cool, man. I liked all of those stories. I liked season two more so than season one. I thought like a lot of the stories in season two were like I don't know. Some of the season one stories were like cool, but I didn't really. They weren't for me. And then, but season two, I felt like I really appreciated a lot of these stories that were being told.
I completely agree. Outside of season 1, episode 1, I would say all of season 2 was significantly stronger. I feel like season 1,
Yeah,
episode 1 might have fit even better in this season than it did in the previous season.
yeah,
Like
for
it
sure.
started with a bang and then it kind of just went off from there. But all of this season was fantastic. I definitely have favorites. I would also watch it all again. I don't think I'd be too interested in watching any of season 1 again. But even the last one, Owl's song or Owl's voice,
Hmm.
the the stop motion in that was just so beautiful. The art style, I was like, oh, I absolutely want to watch that again. I know like we shouldn't bounce to the end, but if I could just say I rewound that several times because I was trying to figure out the medium. I'm 100% sure it was stop motion, but they did their faces in post.
Are you you're talking about the Indian themed
No, the one
episode I was
where the girl's voice was able to fix the crystals, the broken kyber crystals. It was the last episode.
Which season is this? Season two or season one?
Ooh, unless I'm wrong, let me double check. Let me double check. I'm very sure that it was season 2. It was right after the whole.
With the train heist, right? Like they were on the
No,
train with the candy.
no, that was Star Wars in India.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to remember this episode now. So it was after that episode because I thought
After
that
the
episode was the
whole,
last one.
the whole was episode 8. Episode
Yeah.
9 is, hold on, I'm pulling up on my phone. Yeah, Owl's Song, episode 9.
Oh, I may not have watched that one. I thought it was 8 episodes.
I almost said your government name. No, it's 9 episodes.
That's
Wow, I'm
crazy.
more
I didn't watch
prepared
that
for
one.
you, more prepared than you for something Star Warsy. That's
Clearly,
crazy.
you are you've seen one more episode than I have.
That's crazy. That was my favorite episode. We can't even talk about it. Wow. All right.
That's hilarious.
Well, for the next show, I need you to watch episode 9 so we can talk about it.
All right, cool. Yeah, I will do that because I did not watch that one.
That's crazy.
I was letting them play through. Like it just stopped for me at 8. Like you know how it's like skip to, it has a little intro skip. So I thought I was done. I didn't because it didn't pop up. So I was like, oh, okay, that was the last episode, and then I just clicked away. Dang, they got me on that one. That's
They
terrible.
got you.
Wow.
Well,
Anyway, the other 8 episodes were fantastic.
do you want to go through like 1 through 8, say what we liked about it, or you just want to pop around?
Sure. Let's just go through in order because episode 1 was really good. It started off with a bang as well. That was the one I saw in the previews that captivated my attention because the Sith character that they showcased was like in the trailer, and it grabbed. I was like, wow, this looks like an actual like a proper like Sith Lord from the Old Republic era, like which is my favorite era of Star Wars. So like, I was right off the bat intrigued by that, and it was a good. I just appreciate that this is something they put out for May 4th. Like it is I feel like it's a great thing to put out for the May the 4th celebration of Star Wars. So very interesting art direction and a very interesting story in episode 1.
I completely agree.
The use of color as an analogy between light and dark in the Force, really. Like I thought that was a really cool concept. Like it's not something, like I said, like none of these stories are canon, but I like how they allow the storytellers to use these, they give them the creative freedom to create these stories that exist within the Star Wars universe. Like it's a very cool concept, and I think it really does a good job of explaining artistically what the Force is. Like that's what surprised me about that story, because like I said, like the trailers don't really show you or tell you what each of these stories is about. It just kind of showcases the art style of each one and each of the studios, but like you don't know what the story really is until you watch it. And that story really caught me by surprise. I thought it was a really good, well executed story.
Yeah, I think as a whole, the whole series is very beginner friendly as far as like Star Wars fans go. As we know, I'm the more casual fan. Although I have seen almost everything Star Wars related, I am nowhere near deep in the lore as you or other people are. And I can appreciate stuff like this. Like when I talk to my mom or try to talk to my mom about Star Wars, even though I'm the more casual fan, it's just straight over her head. But something like this would be very simple, easy to enjoy. And I agree with how they used color, how they used art, but also how they broke down the light and the dark in this episode. But also, it's almost like every episode is like that. How they explain how important they are and how simply they do it. It was just gorgeous. Also, just really cool to watch art create art.
Yeah.
Like it was like art inception. This episode was that was really cool.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
A little what's the word? Well, gender neutralness. They used they them pronouns for the Sith apprentice in this episode.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that. That's pretty cool though. Those, yeah. So that was, I your point about the Force themes. They were definitely strong in this, more so than season 1. Like this, there seemed to be like a continuous theme of the Force within this, minus I think one episode, from if I recall correctly, or maybe two. There's a couple, but the Force themes were very prominent across all the stories. And then the understanding of an explanation of light and dark being essentially the same coin, was something that I really liked, because that's something that they're kind of now going into within the canon stories of explaining, like, light and dark aren't these two separate sides of the Force. Like, the Force is just the Force. Like, it's really just your intentions and how you use the Force that dictates whether or not it's light or dark. But the Force itself is just the Force. Like, the light and dark is two sides of the same coins. Like those, so like that. I'm skipping ahead here, but the episode with the statues of light and dark, that reveal was so cool to me, because like they were going up there to destroy the Sith statue, and then the reveal is that this light and dark fluctuates between both statues, because they're neither one is light or dark. The Force just ebbs and flows light and dark between both. So like they have to coexist. Like, and then ended up being an analogy for the apprentice who was struggling with his emotions, his anger and hatred and frustration, like in trying to still walk the path of light with those emotions, and then him seeing that allowed him to accept that he can be a Jedi with and accept the light and dark within him. Like they can coexist, and he can still walk the path of the Jedi.
I think the first episode, I think you're talking about episode 5. It's the first time that I felt like someone didn't have to choose a side. Like it's okay to walk the line. I feel all prior Star Wars works made it seem like you had to choose. There's light and there is no balance. There is nobody walking the line. I mean, of course, we as a whole should want the light to win, but we know stuff happens. We know that, they say all the time there has to be a balance between good and evil. Although I've been feeling a lot recently is a lot more evil than good in the Star Wars as a whole. So it was really nice to see that balance between the two, and just to see how it's okay not to choose. But also the fact that they did it in visions almost makes it feel like it's a dream of fans for that to happen, and not necessarily the vision that Lucasfilm and other people create us have, because we haven't seen that on the big screen yet.
No, not yet, but it is a common theme, especially within like the video games. Like there's when Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2 were the first of the Star Wars video games that allowed you to choose, like the decisions you made had an alignment between light and dark. And the first one basically started this trend, but the second one actually affected not only your character but the alignment of your companions as well. And like it changed drastically the story based on how you made your decisions between light and dark. But you could walk the path of a Jedi and still choose like the dark side options, or you could still walk like. And then Knights of the Old Republic, the MMO, also took that a step further, where like you can have a Sith that is aligned with the light side of the Force, and a Jedi that's aligned with the dark side. Like you can have these opposing forces actually coexist within one another. Like Revan is a character that we've talked about several times, and he embodies that. Like he walked both paths of the Sith and Jedi. Is able to find the balance between the teachings of the Sith and the teachings of the Jedi, and create his own order within that. So like it's a common thing, and I think it's something that a lot of fans gravitated towards. It's just, to your point, it's not hit the big screen yet, but like seeing it reciprocated here, I think it's a sign that a lot of the creatives gravitated towards those stories as well within Star Wars, or if they weren't even aware of it, it's that's cool too, because it's a common, it's a cool idea, it's a cool concept that you can have a Sith Lord that has a affinity towards the light side of the Force, and a Jedi that has a more darker tendencies, or is willing to do things that other Jedi would consider to be dark or taboo. Like it makes it a little bit more interesting from a storytelling standpoint, that how they can straddle those lines and walk both worlds. Uh, it's just it's an interesting concept.
Makes me think about the black woman, the Sith from, was it
Oh yeah,
the
Kenobi.
Obi-Wan?
Yeah, Reva. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one that's a big gripe of mine with that story, because it's like when you get that reveal, it's like, yo, if that was her backstory, like y'all could have done so much more with that character. Like that is like talking about. I mean, Fallen Order, like the video game, we have a survivor of Order 66 who continues to walk the path of the Jedi, whereas you have a Reva who was in the temple during Order 66 and actually saw Anakin doing all these horrendous things and has a vendetta, and like walks the path of the dark side to essentially undermine Vader's efforts and like get revenge for herself. Like that's a far more compelling, that's an incredible story that they could have told with that character, that they had a chance to, and they just didn't. Like it's a it was that was a definitely missed opportunity, in my opinion.
The casting was a little too spot on. I would hope that they'll recognize that there's something there and that we see her again. That
I'm
was a little bit too important of a story for them to just never touch again. So I hope they do something with it.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't kill the character off in the end, like, because not like you do have an opportunity there to do something if they choose to do something with that character. It's still there. Like, and then um what my other I mean, gosh, there's some stuff because I've been playing Jedi Survivor. I had to do a playthrough of Fallen Order and replay the story on PC because it's been probably a year and a half since I played that game. Then I started playing Jedi Survivor like that this last week, and man, that story is, I'm nowhere near finished with the game yet, and like so far, like it's one of the best stories that I've in it's definitely in my top 3, like, of Star Wars video games, which says a lot because there's a lot in there, but that one, the Jedi Survivor story, has been pretty damn good up to this point. Like it's uh actually reminding me a lot of these stories that we see in Visions. Like a lot of the elements, like there's so much lore and so many things that they are exploring in this entire story that you don't really get to see on the big screen, and like really cool stuff like that we should see more of in more mediums. But um yeah, and that's, we segued way off of Visions, but like it's all like, I think all in all, these different types of stories being told within Star Wars that still fit within the Star Wars brand are things that Disney and Lucasfilm should do more of and make them canon. Like not just these side stories like what they're doing with Visions, but like do it in a way where it can be incorporated into the canon of the universe. Like we were talking about on a previous show, how small or maybe that was in Discord. I think it was in Discord, but how small Star Wars feels at times because they focus on the same basic areas of space. Like everything happens on the same planets over and over again when on the big screen, but like in other mediums, like they have new worlds. They have got worlds that you never get to see on the larger mediums, and it's it would be nice if they would expand the story a bit. Like I've talked about, like how it would be great if you say, here's a part of the galaxy that is not affected by the conflict between the Empire and the rebels and the New Republic and all that stuff. Like they're on the complete opposite side of the galaxy. And
There's some happy, safe place somewhere.
this, or it doesn't even have to be happy. It just needs to be different. Like it needs to be like things happening in the galaxy not associated with the Skywalker saga, but can happen at the same time, just so that the galaxy can just feel like an actual galaxy, like it can feel big and expansive. You can still say like the Galactic Empire is still probably the largest governing body in the galaxy, but it's not the only one, and nor does it encompass the entire galaxy. Like it is a large part of it, but it's not the entire galaxy. Like I don't think anybody would be upset with that notion within Star Wars. Like you can have like, I think it's supposed to be like 20,000 planets that are members of the Republic before it fell, I think. So that's not, I mean, given the scale of the galaxy, that's tiny. Talking about galaxies, like, I mean, 20,000 star systems, like you grab a telescope right now and just point to any part of space, you're going to see more than 20,000 stars. So like the whole idea of a star, of a, galactic government that only has 20,000 star systems is not, it's not that big on a galactic scale.
It just made me think, what if Star Wars and Star Trek are just happening on opposite sides of the same universe?
There have been fan canons about that.
Ooh, Star Trek and Star Wars fan fiction, actually.
Fanfic, yeah.
I don't want to read that.
It's yeah.
Something else that this show did was made me feel for some of the people on the dark side, like the young girl in episode 2, Screecher's Reach, who was just looking for something, destined for something, didn't know what for, but knew that what she was doing wasn't enough. Didn't really have any idea of what she was going to get herself into. However, as soon as she entered that cave, she killed somebody and knew she was killing somebody. And then knew, oh, this is who I am. This is who I want to be. This is what's meant for me. And I can't go back to my friends. Like, I don't know.
That was a surprisingly dark story.
Yes, and I still felt bad for her. I felt sad for her, because imagine what could have been if someone on the light side got to her first, or just, like, I'm nervous for what her future is. She has no idea that what this person is capable of, what they've done, what they're going to teach her. But we know. I was just like, OMG. And like 2 seconds ago, she was just a kid playing with her friends.
Yeah, it's definitely a Sith origin story for sure, because there's a lot of stories from the Old Republic like that. Like the rule of 2, I think that's the basic concept of that. I believe what happened. I think that the dark side force user that was in the cave was probably that other being's master.
Oh, yikes.
And she's trying to find her apprentice, and she's using the child as the whatever that little necklace was is it's obviously calling out Force sensitive. She's Force sensitive, and it's a test. Like, if she can kill the master, then she can become an apprentice.
I have a question about the Sith, because there's like a rule of 2. There always has to be a master and an apprentice. Why?
That's not always been. That's the Sith Empire, after it collapsed, in Legends, basically the Brotherhood of Darkness is what came of that. There were still a lot of Sith, but they were there was so much infighting between them that the Jedi basically were able to defeat what was left of the Brotherhood. And then that's when Darth Bane essentially um, gives the Jedi the location of the last stronghold of the Brotherhood of Darkness. They show up. There's a massive battle. Bane kills. He sets off this massive explosion that kills everybody in the battlefield. So he kills all the remaining Sith except for his apprentice, and then all the Jedi that showed up for the fight. The Jedi and the Republic believe that the Sith have been destroyed in this moment, and that's when Bane creates the rule of two, where there will only be a master who has power and the apprentice who craves it. And that's just to make basically narrow the line so that there's not as much infighting. Like when the apprentice is strong enough to defeat the master, the apprentice becomes the master. And so like it's just a narrow chain of ascension, essentially. So basically each time out, the one who comes out on top is the stronger of the Sith, because that's what the Sith pride themselves in. Like it's only the strong survive. Like they don't like basically it when the master and apprentice fight each other, like they go at it. Like it's a nobody's pulling punches. And if the master kills the apprentice, the master goes and gets another apprentice because that one was too weak to be a Sith.
So for this episode, we don't really know what time this.
No, we don't know. We don't know when this happens. But essentially, it seems like if it feels like a rule of two type of situation. So it's sometime in the probably what would be now considered the High Republic.
So this is what bothers me then, because I felt this a little bit. Like I just thought it was crazy. Why make the child do it when the master, the one who came out of the ship, was, in my opinion, capable or should have been capable? Or maybe is the master fearful because they just didn't want to kill their own master? Like that's what bothered me. Or maybe the woman who we originally thought was a ghost just didn't expect this child to do that to her. So I don't know, but it made me sad for this child's innocence. That's what we watched this child lose her innocence.
Yeah. And it is definitely a tragedy, but that is also like just that's the nature of the Sith.
And if I can bounce around again, I felt the same way in episode 6, the spy dancer, about the spy, and she realizes at the end that the general who was watching her was a child that was stolen from her. Yep. I felt bad for him. I felt insanely bad for him because we know how cruel the Empire is. Although, like, whenever I think, oh, the Empire could be that cruel, they do something like kill everybody, like they did in Andor, all the people on the floor, and it's like, geez, that's pretty rough. So it never ceased to amaze me how cruel it is. But that was some Moses type stuff, like stole him from his mother and then raised him up to be this, and then now he has to find out, no, you are actually, what if that was some inspiration? That was a little too spot on. That might have been some. Now that I think about it, they might have taken that back to the Bible. Hold up. Haven't seen it. Watch episode 6. That was a little biblical.
More than likely.
I felt insanely bad for him. And I usually don't for Empire people, but that was rough. Like just to have so much taken from you. And the fact that he was taken from her, that's probably the reason why she became the spy and was doing the things that she was doing. And then boom, she finds that her child that was stolen from her is now a general in the Empire.
Yeah.
It was all rough.
And then on his behalf, he probably has always felt like an outsider, and he's gotten to that position, but he's always had to prove himself. But like all of those doubts probably are now, he's realizing now what he really is, and now he's got to figure out what he's going to do, because like this is definitely during the age of rebellion. So this is like, the rebellion is on the rise during this story. So like he he could help his mother and become a double agent for the Empire. Like that was a very good story. But yeah, like it makes you think like what types of how many stories like that are within the Empire, because that general's not the only general that did that.
Can't be.
And like, there's and with Andor, like that was a beautiful thing about what I liked about Andor, especially at the end, like that final scene in Andor when they're fighting the Empire. Like that was just an uprising. That was nothing, it had nothing to do with the rebels. Like that wasn't the rebellion at all. And like you have to imagine, like there's probably hundreds of thousands of uprisings like that happening all across the galaxy, and the Empire doesn't know whether or not this is just if this is related to the rebellion, or if this is just a natural or a grassroots uprising from the populace that are just tired of the Empire's rule, like, and they're not even associated or affiliated with the rebellion. Like that's what I liked about that season finale. Like, and it reminded me of this episode had very similar had a very similar vibe to me. Like I never really considered that the rebels could use the chaos of rebellion that has literally nothing to do with their activity. It's just people around the galaxy getting tired of the Empire, and that is confusing the Empire because the Empire doesn't know how to thwart, if this is just a insurgency, this is a rebel. Like they don't know what's happening. Like all they know is that everybody around them is starting to, there's a lot of upheaval going on, and that really could lead to rebellion growing stronger without the Empire ever being able to get a grasp on it, because they don't know where all of this is coming from.
Something else that I think this show made me realize about the Empire is just another level to their cruelty. To have so much power and so much access to technology, but to still use slaves is kind of like they don't have to do that. In fact, I feel like it might be easier to use droids for a lot of the things that the Empire chooses to use people for. It's almost just a way to exert their power. Like I could just design a droid to do this. That would be 10 times cheaper than all of the other droids I use in battle. But no, I'm just going to make you do it. Like, I just think, like back to Andor, they could have had that entire process automated and moving faster than the people, in my opinion. This time has proved to us that computers can do simple things faster than us.
Yeah,
so,
well,
choose people is nuts.
Because given the prison industrial complex within a galactic empire that is has an authoritarian leadership, like they can turn every prison that they own into a factory, essentially. And then you have all of these arbitrary rules where like what would have been a fine is now a prison sentence. And now, like, so instead of legally enslaving people, they're just using law to bind these people, throw them in prison, and then have them work their prison sentence off while they're in jail.
That's hitting a little too close to home.
But I mean, that's essentially what was happening in Andor. Like, because he got arrested because he was basically in the wrong place at the wrong time.
He didn't do anything.
He literally did nothing. Like he was just walking in the wrong direction up the beach, and they threw him in jail for that. Right? Like, and so like if you can just do that with legislation, right? And you have rules that people don't even know are rules that carry like hefty prison sentences. They break them, you just throw them in jail. Now all of a sudden they're part of your, like that turnaround is probably faster than being able to produce a automated droid assembly line. But even still, they were using droids where they needed discretion, like when they needed to keep secrets, like they were just using droids. Like the actual construction of the Death Star was primarily droids working on that. They didn't have many personnel working on it because it was a top secret project. So perhaps all of their, where they needed discretion, they were using droids, and where they didn't, like they could use personnel. Like, and that's like the evil nature of the like that's what I loved so much about Andor, because it really showed you how evil the Empire was, like, and how like they did it in a realistic way. That was the other thing. Like it wasn't over, like it was over the top because it's Star Wars, but at the same time you could literally see, like I can totally see how a world government can become this. Like I can see how any nation's government could do something like this, because it's not too far off from the prison industrial complex that we have here in the United States.
I mean, I was just watching an episode of 60 Minutes about all the child laborers across the Midwest working in the slaughterhouses.
And you don't even know it till like something. And then like now when the if the state is in control of the media, like you never even hear about that. Right. Like, and that's the big difference. Like you don't know that something like this is happening because the media does not inform you of such things, because the media is not independent. Like in the Galactic Empire, the media is state run. So they don't promote anything. None of this stuff is being publicized. Like none of these things are happening. Like the pilgrims on Aldhani, right? Like nobody in the galaxy knows that's even happening. They don't even know that Aldhani is a thing. Like they have no idea that any of that's happening. Right?
Just
like
genocides all over the place.
Right. The people in what's episode what was it, 8?
Yeah, I was gonna see if we could segue to that.
Yeah, that's same thing. Like they're like they shortened the distance, I feel, because of the nature of the story that they're telling, but it's not an fathomable thing. Like you have slave labor camps right next to this pristine city, and the people have no idea that their way of living is being is because of these slave labor camps that the Empire has now gotten what they needed from them and left abandoned in a hole.
I mean, it's like New York back in the day, not so much now because of gentrification, but I mean the ghettos in the Bronx and Brooklyn, and people living literally in filth and then going every day to work in Manhattan, to work in these big shiny buildings as janitors and stuff. And then all these people are living life, living lavish, and then just our people going back home at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Episode 8 was arguably the saddest. I was mad as hell that they made me watch that. I was like, well, damn. Like, that's the first time I considered race the way that we do in Star Wars, right? It's always been human or earthling or whatever the hell they call them versus aliens in a bit, or really just light versus dark, but never and of course the dark side, the bad side, they're not slim. But anyway, this is the first time I was like, yo, everybody is Black. They sprinkled a couple white people in there, but they had very strategic parts where, like, there was a scene where everybody realized that let's call them slaves because that's what they were. When the slaves realized that were left in the hole, they showed different faces, all light skin, dark skin. There was one that looked just like Julian. Sad he's not on here because I was going to tell him. Sorry, JBS. Damn it, my bad. But all like they chose when to make sure that we saw the Black characters and when to sprinkle in other races. But for the most part, it was about Black people. It was quite loud. And then to see, you know, the police brutality, the stormtroopers, and how they treated the men who got out to tell, you know, that was quite rough. And then I can't remember too well. I have to watch that episode again, even though I really don't want to. But the people that came to save the day, I don't remember many Black faces. I remember a lot of like aliens, maybe some white people, but I don't remember too many Black faces.
It wasn't as many as there were in the whole. There were a lot of people of color and Black people, specifically Black people. I think it was primarily because the main characters were Black that they put a lot of Black people as well in the whole. But like there were a lot of people of color, but it was a lot of Black people.
The invaders were also Black.
And there were a lot of peoples of color down there in the whole as well, and then there were some sprinkled in amongst the city folk, but not a lot. There were a lot of aliens, and there were a lot of white people, and there were a couple people of color and Black people in there, and but for the most part, like that the diaspora was definitely, they were not pulling punches with that one. Like they were very intentional with the placement of, and like I mean I'm shocked that even like that Disney Lucasfilm were like, oh yeah, we're gonna put this in here, like because it was definitely on the nose. It was definitely on the nose. But hey, you know, shout out to them because I feel like it was still a good story.
It was an amazing story. I'm glad that they made it. I was sad by the end of it, especially a Black man was killed in the subway up here. I don't know if you heard the story.
Yeah.
And
seen
that his killer has not been arrested, and it doesn't seem like he might be. And you know that's what I'm dealing with up here. And then to see that man get thrown in the hole, that was kind of tough. And I was just like, dang, I did not have to do that.
I thought somebody was gonna save him.
I didn't think it was when I saw them pick him up. I said, "Oh, they're gonna throw him in the hole."
I know, I did too, and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna." I was like, "But he not like somebody gonna use force or something." Like, but nah, like they just. I was like, "Oh, damn, okay, wow."
That was one of 2 episodes that didn't have any force users in it. I think
that's nope, not true. Because technically the little girl, his sister, when the kyber crystal turns blue,
yes,
like that's a sign of a sign of force sensitivity. Because when the Jedi younglings find their kyber crystal, the color of the crystal changes once they've found it.
Yes. Right. So then there was only one.
So like I was like, oh wow, that was a nice. At least it ended on a light note because that was nice to see.
I will say that. Oh, sorry. The episode you did not see was quite refreshing and would have healed you completely. So I do hope you watch it. We don't have to talk about it too much, but I will say that was the most interesting art style out of all of them. Just like as an artist, I was in awe of that episode more than anything. Like I was pausing it and looking at the TV, trying to figure out if it was stop motion, if it was all animated, like what was happening. And it that one was really cool. But it is a very positive story. There was very minimal darkness in it, and it healed me from the previous episode.
That's good. That's good. Well, hell, I'm glad I have another episode to watch. That's crazy. That is wild, man. Because it seriously did not like, because you know how it has the little 20-second countdown to when the episode ends, and you can just skip because it's like the credits are rolling. It did not pop up for me after episode 8, so because I just thought.
Did you see the graffiti after episode 8?
No.
Okay, so when episode ends, there's a bit of credits, and then there's something else that pops up. There's like in the hole, there's like a rock with like a huge graffiti mural on it, that I guess had like information about the creators. So that's why it did not roll directly into the next episode.
Oh, so it was like
That.
so they
And
had a mid-credit scene.
it was barely even that because it wasn't very long. But if you stopped just when the credits started rolling, you did not see that, and it didn't take me to the next episode until after that. So that's why it's
Oh,
not
damn.
long.
Okay.
There's just like a whole like a graffiti mural with like the little girl in the end and some of the characters from that episode on it. And I think it had the name of the studio that made it too.
Nice. Okay. Cool. Because I didn't. That's crazy.
If I think the only episodes we didn't talk about, if we could talk about the Bandits of Golak, which had like very, very, very strong South Asian themes.
Yes.
Before I saw the last episode, I was like, this is the most beautiful episode on here. Like they're not to top that. It was outstanding. It actually reminded me, the animation style reminded me of Jybro from Robots, Love, Death, and Robots. That episode with the siren and the deaf soldier. Just it was strikingly gorgeous to watch. Beautiful and yeah.
And it seems like too it felt like the Clone Wars animation style. Like they used the CGI that they used for the Clone Wars, but kind of like modernized it. Like it was just an updated version of Clone Wars style. Like season 7 Clone Wars. Like they took that template and we were like, oh, we can use these. All right, well, let's update these and use this style for the animation, because it felt like an episode of Clone Wars. Like that's what I like about it. But man, it was so culturally beautiful. Like it was really cool, man. That was a heartbreaking story. Like, but very like I love that story. That was definitely that ended up being my no, it wasn't, but it was like that whole the relationship between the brother and sister was beautiful. Like I was like, wow, that was amazing. Like I really liked that episode. That was my favorite episode out of the season.
I'll tell you what this whole show taught me. The kids with the Force are bad as hell and they don't listen. Just worse than other children. Children with the Force are the worst and they don't know how to not get themselves killed. That happened in episode 9. That happened in episode 7. Episode 3, she was the worst. Episode 2, just badass kids everywhere. Just no control, which most kids wouldn't have, but just dang, could you try not to die today? That's why I was happy that she stayed, because I was like, yo, he could not keep her alive.
Yeah. It was best. It was best for everybody. That's for sure. I like that the little flute came up at the end too. In the water. I was like, that was nice. I really like that episode. I have nothing, no gripes about that one. That was definitely my favorite one. And I got to see episode 9, but but yeah, that one right now it was the best episode for me.
I'd say, I don't know if that's my favorite episode. Number 9 is the most beautiful, and it was just so refreshing after episode 8 that I'm just happy that I saw it. But episode 2 is there for me. Just really cool. Like number 9 was captivating because it was a sweet story and it was beautiful. The art style was captivating. But episode 2, Screecher's Reach, that might have had it for me. Oh, what I was gonna say is I did like there were a couple of episodes where we got to see older Jedi. It's always refreshing to see an older Jedi. Like we got to see that in episode 7. It was the woman who ended up saving the little girl and keeping her safe and taking her to teach her. That was nice to see. Since I binged all of the season 1 and 2, I also got to see that there were quite a few older Force users in season 1 and 2, and that was just nice to see. Very nice.
Yeah. Okay, so season 1, the duel, the Elder was like, that was a wild episode.
He didn't even have to do that. He's just old and trying to fight.
Yeah. That was
unnecessary.
That was such a wild episode. That and so the Spy Dancer, I'd say the Bandits from what I've seen. Then probably this scrolling is terrible. keeps playing the episodes.
I know. I have it open on my phone, and the same thing keeps happening to me.
The Bandit, the Sith, episode 1, the Screech's Reach, Spy Dancer, The Pit, then episode 4 was probably my least favorite. It was good, but it just wasn't like
Episode
wasn't for me.
4, I liked it because the animation style reminded me of Chicken Run and like Wallace and Gromit.
It's the animators that did Wallace and Gromit. It's the same studio.
I liked it because it was
a good story. Yeah, it was a good story, but that's not like, I don't know, it didn't hit like that for me. I think I have a whole different type of, I appreciate the story, but I have a different relationship with my mother. And so like to me, I'm like, oh, okay, that's.
Yeah, she definitely learned a lesson.
I don't, that's so, but I appreciate the story. It was not a bad story.
What I could say is, number 4, I Am Your Mother, is the one episode where I can see a clear future for it. Like if they decided to expand it and make it its own show for the kids, I see it clear as day. I know exactly what it's about. Every episode is like something like that. Yeah. Definitely not for us, but it's just.
It was also very British.
Yeah, it was a little.
It was very British. It was
a little tea and crumpet. You're right. It keeps playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Not like I said, and not it wasn't a bad story at all. Like it just wasn't. I'm not the intended audience for that story. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think for once, this is probably the one episode that wasn't for us. Although, our song could definitely be for the kids too. I'm not even going to deny that, but it's such a beautiful story that I'm glad I got to see it. There's definitely some darkness. There's the tiniest bit of violence in that episode, but I wouldn't compare it to episode 4 at all. But it could definitely be something for children too. 100%.
Yeah. Hold on. Which episode?
The one you ain't watch.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's called Ours.
It's called Our Song.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
Something. I don't know what it was.
My father's sneezing.
Oh, wow.
And he is very far away. We are as far away from each other as we could be right now. Is there any episode we did not cover? Oh, we didn't cover. In the Stars. I like this episode. Just like I said, all these horrible children. The little sister in this episode, episode 3, she got on my nerves.
Absolute most, bro. Like me too. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like those.
Somewhere her sister is doing everything. Now I can say it bothered me because I'm a big sister, and I've actually been like stressing out. My youngest brother is getting ready to go to college, so soon they'll all be in college, and none of my siblings are listening to me. They're just not. Nobody is doing anything that I've recommended they do. As a big sister, I have worked very hard to set an example, and I was telling my mom, I could have been a hoe. I could have, just did the wrong things. I could have went to jail because they're not listening to me anyway. Anything that I wanted to do, and I double thought myself, like, I don't know if that's going to set the best example. I should have did it because they don't listen to me. And then this freaking episode comes on, and I'm like, yo, you've got to be kidding me.
Full circle. Hitting close to home.
The only people on the planet are that aren't supposed to be there are her and her sister, and she's doing everything she can to kill herself. Yeah,
that was same. It was so over the top, but I mean, I guess it's for somebody. But to me, I was like, this is crazy.
I hope somebody's little sister in the world watches that and feels bad about how they treated their family. Just. If you watched that and you felt guilty, good. You deserved it. You should go hug your mother, your father, whoever you don't listen to. Oh, she got on my nerves so bad. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. It was so yeah. It was, and then like it coming after Screech's Reach, where you have like to me a story that does that well, where like she's just misguided, and like the way they tell the story, you don't know what the hell's going on till the end, and you're just like, yo, this is damn, because it's like you get the sense that she's in a situation that is not like great at all, like, and
Shit, this
she
Nico's
goes,
so basic
from
water.
it goes from bad to like worse, and you're like, dang, all because she wants to believe that, well, she just wants something better, and like the only opportunity that presents itself just happens to be something that isn't, and she doesn't know that.
And doesn't understand it. Side note, me talking about that and complaining about that made me think about Lilo and Stitch. I have not seen Lilo and Stitch as an adult. Last time I saw Lilo and Stitch is when it came out. I want to watch that again because now I'm thinking about it. Nani was trying to do whatever she could to just keep her sister. She had child protective services on her back, and Lilo was outside running around with aliens and fighting girls in school. That might be the same story for real.
Could be, because you're right. I hadn't seen that since it came out when we were little. So it's probably as cringy. It
It might
probably
be.
is. It probably is.
I'm gonna watch it, especially since they're doing a remake. I'm gonna watch it so that I can complain about the live action version. But that one I could do without. That's the one episode that episode 8 I would watch, but I'm gonna be sad about it. But I do not want to watch episode 3 just at all. So my brothers and sisters, if y'all listen to me, go to class, do your homework, please. Just please do the right thing.
Yeah, I will say that the episode, was it 4? I Am Your Mother. Like it, that's probably it's definitely better than, what's that show? I think Star Wars Resistance. But it's basically the same type of audience, the same audience, same age group. But like that show right there, this, to your point, episode 4 would definitely be a better show than that was, in my opinion. Like it's we do need stuff that is like, okay, so one thing I do appreciate as well about all of these, whether or not I like them or not, is that they are different types of stories within the Star Wars universe. And that's something that we desperately need, because we have the continuity. Like, I've always appreciated that about Star Wars. It's like Star Wars has always been what it was since its inception. It's never had a reboot, never had anything like it. The story, you just tell stories and they fit within the timeline somewhere and they're connected. But we've never had like a variety of types of stories like what Visions has been able to execute. So I would like to see more of that type of stuff in canon. That would be great. Because you have a wide variety of age groups and audiences that like Star Wars, and they like different types of things. Like, so they should do more of these types of things and make them canon.
I can only imagine what my life would have been like if my dad had stuff like this to show me. Like I was just watching episode 4, 5, 6 with him as a baby, no idea what the hell is going on. Happy, so I was happy, I guess. But imagine if I had I Am Your Mother to watch, how I would have felt, or even like freaking Lego Star Wars stuff like that. How cool that stuff would have been. Side note: I have a Samsung, so I watch Samsung TV Plus sometimes. There's some cool stuff on there, and there's a fireplace channel. One day I was scrolling, and
I've never watched that though. But yeah, go ahead, continue.
It's the stuff on Samsung TV Plus, enjoyable. Just scroll through one. You're gonna get stuff, and it's gonna be to the point where, like, you know what? I'm gonna watch some Samsung TV Plus today. I have a Korean channel, and there's a Korean restaurant in Bali. The show is just the restaurant, different cameras from different angles of the restaurant. The show does not move like quickly, like there's not a lot of fast editing. So the show will start with a couple walking into the restaurant. The show will be an hour long, and from the beginning to the end, it's the people cooking the food and the people eating the food, and that's the whole show. That's it. Quite enjoyable. Anyway, back to the verb. One day I was scrolling, and some Lego Star Wars was on, and I got to see Lego Grievous. That was cool. like in action and stuff.
Yeah.
I never forgot that. It was around Christmas time it came on, and I was stuck on the Lego channel hoping I would see it, and I never got to see it again. So I said all that to say that I agree with you. It would be nice to have some refreshing newer stories because they keep giving us the same thing. Even with Andor, yes, it's a different story, but still the themes are exactly the same. There are no differences in themes. At least Screecher's Reach, that's an angle I don't think we've gotten to see ever.
Yeah, well, they hardly ever touch on the dark side perspective. Like, I'm hoping Acolyte's going to be good because that'll be the first live action, like, I mean, hell, TV show or movie that is from the perspective of the Sith. Like, that will be the first one in the history of Star Wars. So that's going to be great because we get it all the time in other mediums. It's just never on the big picture screens.
I hope so.
And like, these stories are like beloved by the fan base. I mean, the Bane trilogy is fantastic, and it's stuff that people absolutely love because it really does a good job of establishing what exactly the Rule of Two is and why it exists in the first place, and like just the whole dynamic between the Sith, because the Sith are kind of like, it'd be like if the Mafia had force powers. That essentially is what the Sith Empire was.
Jeez,
that's how they operate. Like they have like the Sith Empire itself operated in that mob-like manner. Like they had the Sith Council, which would be like the ruling families, the crime families, and the heads all sat at the council, and they had their line of ascension. They had their apprentice, and their apprentice had apprentice. Like so, like they had all this, but the problem became like there's all this infighting on who wants to be sitting in that council seat. So, when one day you have a Dark Lord who is sat on the council for 15 years, and then next day he's killed by his apprentice, and the apprentice is sitting on the throne now. Then you got like alliances that are secret alliances that have happened in those 15 years between that Sith Lord or that Dark Lord and other council members that the apprentice doesn't know about, and like it gets really messy, but it's really entertaining because it's like, this is wild. Like it's just a mob story, and like they just end up killing themselves, chasing power and greed, and like all the things that Sith do. But that's all we got in Visions. I ain't got no more else to say.
I was gonna ask you, are there any stories that you would like to see, like just anything, concept that they could potentially do with Visions?
I think I would just like them to continue telling these one-off stories, but like do some that are canon, so that they're part of the Star Wars timeline. Like, continue telling these bringing in the different studios, and let them tell the story from different parts of the time period. Like they establish a new timeline now for like each of the eras of Star Wars. Like, have 9 stories take place across these different time periods. Like, tell a story that takes place after episode 9. Tell a story that takes place in the High Republic, Old Republic, Dawn of the Jedi, Age of Rebellion. Like, tell these stories, but make them canon. Like, make them actually a part of. You don't have to incorporate characters that we know, but just the events actually are something that happen and tie into the greater story. Like, that would be fantastic.
And out of all of the episodes in this season, which one would you like to see canon?
Ooh, I will say that to me, gosh, that's just one. That's terrible.
So that's canon. And maybe you don't see that character at that particular spot. Maybe you see them at a different point in their lives, but just one episode to be canon.
I would like Bandits. I would like to see the the girl maybe as an adult. Like
I chose Screecher's Reach, and I would love
that was my second option too. Like just because I the only issue is I don't know where that takes place or like what time period it takes
Well,
place
that's
in.
what's dope about it. There's a
It
chance
can
it could
have
take.
it can be canon. Like that's to me that story right there is not off the rails. Like it's still within what it functions properly as a Star Wars story. Like it's not like Sith is cool, right? But like it it there's too many abstract elements of it for it to fit in the canon. Like I do like the characters though. I feel like the characters could definitely be canon, right?
You talking
But
about the
like
first episode?
yeah, the first episode. But Screecher's Reach for sure, because Screecher's Reach felt like grounded well within the Star Wars universe. Like it abides by all the rules of Star Wars pretty damn well.
I'd say that episode and the Spy Dancer seemed the most on brand
Spy well too.
for Star Wars, but for the opposite, like we love Bandits for the opposite reason. It's completely different, which is why we want to see it. But those two episodes are probably easier to see. But just the concept, the fact that I feel sorry for a Sith, that's what makes me want that episode so bad.
Thank you.
That's the one that does it for me. Did I have any more questions? I think that's all I got. I'm excited. I'm sad I didn't know that the show existed before yesterday, but I'm glad I watched it. Glad I watched it all, and hopefully we get another season in a year and not two.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be cool, but I'm okay with them taking their time and finding the right storytellers to continue. Because, like, I mean, both these seasons have been really good, both season 1 and 2, and I like how good the storytelling has been with these stories. So as long as they tell the right stories, I'm cool with, even if it takes a couple years for them to put out another season. Like I would definitely love annual May 4th releases for Visions because I feel like it fits. But I think last year I think the Bad Batch came out.
I think so.
For May 4th. But yeah, I mean they releasing something for May the 4th every year would be nice. Visions feels like it's one of those things that you can absolutely do year on year for May the 4th. It's a nice story. Especially when they don't have anything else to put out on May 4th. Because early on in the merger, we weren't getting anything on May the 4th. Like they didn't even know May the 4th was a Star Wars holiday. But yeah, anything else?
That's all I got. Also, it just popped in my head. I'm looking at all the stuff that Star Wars has on Disney Plus. It would be dope to see a horror Star Wars story. And that's all I got. I'm finished. I'll say nothing else.
They could do that. They could absolutely do that because there's a zombie plague in Star Wars.
Where?
It happened during the Old Republic. It's called the Rakghoul disease.
You know I love zombies.
And it turns people into like a zombie horde, like not like monster zombie horde type of like if they don't even if the Rakghoul scratch you or bite you, like you basically become infected and you become one of them within like a couple minutes, and it's a full on like metamorphosis transformation into one of these Rakghoul monsters. Yeah, they could absolutely tell that story. That would be the one to tell. And then in the High Republic, they have another type, but it's plants, like these sentient plants that basically they have this hive mind, but anywhere that one of these plants is, like it's basically like
Last of Us.
Last of Us.
Last of Us is too stressful because it hit too close to home. I can't do it.
Yeah, Drengir, like that's what those creatures are called. But like, yeah, I mean they've got horror stories within Star Wars. It's just somebody needs to write the script for it. It needs to be a TV show too.
Ooh.
It needs to be TV. But the Rackle, man, that would be crazy to tell that story because that was like a they had to take drastic measures to keep that one contained.
Well, that's all I got.
Same here.
Well,
Same
thank you
here.
for watching. As always, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch at Certified Gumbo. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notifications button down below, or maybe it's up there. I don't know where it is for y'all, but you know where it is. Make sure that you can get notified whenever we're going live or whatever. Please buy us some coffee. The link is in the description bar down below. And as always, join us on Discord. We have these conversations all day, every day. Right now, everybody's talking about the finals. 76ers are playing right now. They got beat the other day. So see what's going on with that. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all. I've got nothing else to report. So we should be back week after next
Yes.
with the next episode. So as I always say, peace, love, blessings, and may the force be with you always.